Jambo, this is Ruth Kamau, and welcome to Wasafiri Africa, where we celebrate Africa and things African. In the highlands of Kenya is Dondori Township, located in Bahati Constituency in Nyandarua County, a mere 3 hours from Nairobi. At approximately 6,500 feet or 2,000 meters, Dondori Forest flourishes in the cool highland climate and boasts a 60-foot waterfall with its own miniature rainbow. Twendeni, Africa is ready. In what could be a storybook setting, Muthoni Garland was brought up on a farm in Dondori, tucked away in the scenic Dondori Forest. With no schools nearby, Muthoni and her siblings were homeschooled. It was perhaps serendipitous that one wall in the living area was filled with books, and in the cold, wet weather, it's hardly surprising that the family became avid readers. The love for books stayed with Muthoni despite pursuing a business degree. At 40, life began again for Muthoni after enrolling in a creative writing course, reigniting her first love anew. The result was Story Moja, with Muthoni Garland at the helm. Stability established itself in the academic books publishing arena, and Story Moja took flight. Muthoni Garland is a believer in positivity, and the universe has conspired. So let's delve in and turn the pages of this tale of two stories, Story Moja and Muthoni Garland. Muthoni, we mwega?
Ndi mwega muno.
Uhoro waku?
Mi niko fit sana.
Uko fit kabisa.
Yes.
Today is a good day. I'm so happy.
Yes.
You know?
So am I. Yeah.
You know, it's when I came here. Was it this year, Muthoni?
It was.
Was it this year?
Yes,
and I
it
came
was
to
this
your
year.
office.
It was definitely this year.
Yeah, and you know, I had, living in Cape Town and everything, I hear about Story Moja, and Ivy had mentioned Story Moja to me, and of course, I knew about you, but we never met because I left,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And so when I came, you were so extremely hospitable. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
But I remember you from the play you wrote many, many years ago. And your sister made me come with her to watch it, and it was fantastic. We were blown away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was so affirming to hear you say that when I came, because I don't know. It's nice to be accepted by the village.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. No, you definitely belong in the creative world here.
Asante sana. What I went away with was how happy I felt about what you were doing here at Story Moja.
Yes.
You have really made a mark. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
And because at the back of my mind, I was thinking about it's time for Wasafiri Africa to be born.
Yes.
I knew that you would definitely be on my list, and I really hoped that the stars would align.
Yes.
And I can't believe that you told me that you were away and you're living Kesho.
Yes. So I've been away for the last 2.5 months. And I came back just 2 days ago, and then I go to Zimbabwe for a week for the Harare Lit Fest. Yes.
Can you imagine? And I just happened to be in Nairobi.
That window was meant to be.
I'm so grateful. So thank you for your time. Wow. And, just to get a chance to share Story Moja on Wasafiri Africa is a real pleasure for me. Thank you. Sasa, Muthoni, just tell me, why Story Moja? Where does your love of books come from before we even go to Story Moja?
I have a very, I think, pretty unique life story, at least my origins. So my father worked for the government. He was in the civil service. And he worked in the settlement. And so just after independence, actually before independence, he bought a farm in Dondori.
Okay.
And we moved there. So originally they were from Nyeri, but we moved to Dondori. And in Dondori, in those days, it was just virgin forest.
Right.
And the house we lived in had previously been the district commissioner's office. and it was one of those houses built on stilts, and it's
Okay.
a wooden house.
Yes.
You know, there's with a fireplace as big as this room.
I remember. The place is cold.
Cold.
It's cold.
In fact, it's not cold now. Now it's, you know, but in those days it was very cold and rainy and not very hospitable. But what happened is that DC was a confirmed bachelor.
Okay.
And he was in his maybe 60s, 70s. He seemed like a very old man when he went back. We met him I only met him the once, I think. But what was unique is that he read all the time. So he had a library that was this huge wall, one wall of books. And literally what my parents did, because we were the fourth family to move to Dondori, so there were no schools, no roads. You know, Dondori was famous. I mean, mud tracks. There were no roads. There was nothing.
We shall go.
Yes. So my mother taught us the BCs, my sister and I. And then my father said, you know, this library is your school. So every Sunday, I want you to present a book report. So you pick one book, then the next, the next, the next. And that basically was my formative education. And at first I was resentful because a lot of the books were about agriculture. They were about plough farming in Ireland or Ashire breed of cattle or I mean,
global education, but not local.
You know? But amidst all that, there was also Greek mythology.
Wow.
There was Shakespeare. There was, you know, you discover some wonderful Emily Bronte type books, you know, Jane Austen, you know. So, yeah, so it was a mishmash of things. And then my father also liked the African series. So when they came out, he started buying the African series. Yeah, so that was my education. I think that love of books, you know, stayed with me. And at first, you know, now I realize that if you're exposed to books when you're very young, and if you take to them, because there are children who don't take to them for whatever reason, but if you take to them like I did, I was those kids who reads at night with a torch, you know, and under the science book there's fiction, you know, I'm pretending I'm doing science and it's fiction. And it stayed with me, you know, for life.
Right.
And so even when I finished university and studied marketing, because my parents said, absolutely not, you're not going to be a journalist, which is what I thought I would be.
Yes.
And then so I ended up taking business, and I thought, okay, fine, I'll come back and I'll do this research. I studied research. And then, I worked in advertising and market research, etc.
Right.
But I didn't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
You know, like I enjoyed it, but I wasn't feeling like I am myself.
Right,
you know?
right.
And so when I got an opportunity to take a creative writing course, and this I was 40 then, I fell in love. I just like, it came to me and I said, this is it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in books. You know, this is my true love. And so I left the corporate world, all the market research, all that stuff. I left it and decided, you know, invest. And I don't know how.
Yes.
So I was writing and then got together with other writers, including, you know, the wonderful Ivy and Dio Foster and a bunch of others. And we started Story Moja. And at the time we thought, okay, we'll just start a company that, as a collective, start a company that publishes the books that we like to read.
Yes.
So a little bit like the books we're some of the books we're publishing now. But it didn't work. And the company pretty much went bust and we owed a lot of money. And then we realized, or I should say, necessity forced us.
It's called school fees.
Yes.
Muthoni, you know, that's just life.
Yes,
you have to pay that school fees.
It's true. So at that point, we decided, okay, we'll get into educational publishing.
Right.
Because that's where the money is. And then we're very lucky because sort of 10 years down that route of educational publishing, and it took a while to build that up. So by educational publishing, I mean, curriculum-aligned books.
Right.
And then within that period, we're very lucky in the sense that when the system changed from 844 to CBC, we're right there at the beginning.
Right.
And so we started investing in now developing textbooks. And so we've been rolling out every year textbooks, and that really has been the genesis of the Story Moja that you now see.
It's amazing because, like you say, some of these things is it's almost subliminal. It's at the back of your mind.
Yes.
Something keeps tickling you there and it refuses to go away.
Yes.
You know? And you never feel like you're really quite doing what you want to do until, and then when you do find that moment, you know for sure. And also, what a zeitgeist for you, because to have 844 and CBC changing just when you discover the way you should be going.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because it's the wind that you needed.
Correct.
To take off.
Correct. But I truly believe you put your, we call it best foot forward, but it's also putting your positive energy into the world.
Yeah.
And take that step.
Yeah.
And somehow things tend to align.
Yeah, they align.
There might be difficulties, but eventually that's what's meant to be. I guess it will happen.
Yeah, I think it's the whole thing about faith, you know, believing that you can, then you somehow you do. And when I remember my dad used to tell us, if you say you can't, then you won't.
Then you won't.
You know, so you have to delete that word out of your vocabulary. And I remember seeing a poster once, which has stayed with me to this day, before even like Zen was a fashionable thing, at least in my mind. And the poster said that leap and the net will appear.
Yes.
And that sounds so daring, right? It's like, yeah, okay, I'm at the cliff edge. Deep breath.
Yes.
And then suddenly, instead of falling, you're lifting off.
Yeah.
I remember the last visit that I came, you took me around, and this is quite an impressive outfit that you have here at Story Moja.
Thank you.
It really is. And when you drive in, it's so quiet, so peaceful, like a residential area, sort of peacefulness. It is a right as well, so people are living in a different space, you know, in the mind, in the computer, whatever. It's like a duck. You know, the feet are paddling so hard.
I see what you mean.
You see, like a duck or the swan is just sailing on the water smoothly going through. So, you know, to give an idea of what you've accomplished here, I think it would be remiss of me not to give you that opportunity, because it makes me, selfishly, it makes me feel good to know how much you've accomplished, you know. So upstairs you have, this studio is here at Story Moja. That's for starters, you know.
So we use the studio to record audio stories.
Right.
And have been doing that for a few years now.
Yeah.
And built the studio literally, like everything else we've done, out of necessity.
Right.
Like when we first realized we have all these, you know, because we've got over 400 storybooks. And we're like, if we want to create audiobooks, if we try to do them in professional studios where we hire, we'll never afford it. You know, it'll be impossible. And at the time, we weren't even sure how many we'd do or whether there'd be a market for it. Even now, there's not really a market for it, but we're hoping that that will happen.
Yeah.
And at that time, we were very hopeful because the government kept talking about digital, you know, investing in the digital space. If you remember, the last president actually gave every child a laptop, you know, etc. So we're like, okay, let's get digitized books, you know, etc. So, but anyway, so going back to when we started, we started really small. And where we are now, the Story Moja building, which is 3 floors, were 3 flats that my mother built in her retirement.
In her retirement?
In her retirement.
Go, Mom!
She wanted a place to live, because she said the main house was too big, you know, and I guess she missed my father. I don't know, missed having family there and whatever. Yeah. So she wanted a smaller flat.
Big and empty. Yeah.
So it's not. So if you look at it as flats, it's just up and down flats. It's not fancy flats or anything like that, which actually works as an office in a weird sort of way. Worked better as an office than it did ever as a flat. So where we're sitting right now, I think was her bedroom. I could be wrong, but anyway, it was like that.
You see now, repurposed.
Yes, repurposed. Yes. So when we started Story Moja, we took the downstairs flat, and it was everything. It was our store, it was our office, it was our meeting room, and it's a relatively small flat, 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And that worked out fine. And then suddenly we won a tender for a literature set book, I think in 2016 or 2016. and had to supply in 2017.
Yeah.
And we suddenly went from, everybody at that time, I think maybe we were 12 or something employees, I can't remember, and we had a store that maybe had, let me guess, 10,000 books. Something like that.
That sounds like a lot.
No. This would, maybe three times this, which was what was then the living room.
Okay.
That was our store.
Yes.
And at our busiest, 10,000 is too many. Maybe there were 5,000 books, something like that.
Right.
Then you win a tender, and when I remember when we got it, and I'm asking the other publishers who had won, I said, so how many do you think we should print? And they said, well, your first print run, you should try for 200,000. I almost fell off my seat. I was like, okay, 200,000 books. Where are we going to put them? And who's going to pay for them? How are we going to print them? What? I mean, I just couldn't.
You really did leap for you, eh? You just leapt and just trusted this net will appear because
it was unbelievable. So, and literally we were awarded December 22nd or something, and they're supposed to be delivered, to us mid-January, and to make sure, because in those days the schools used to open sort of like mid-January,
right,
and then start delivering them now to schools and to
and is this
bookshops
schools all over the country?
All over the country, 30,000 schools.
I'm sweating.
So we thought, okay,
Sure.
what do we do? And that's where we built the warehouse.
Yeah.
And then, so we built this warehouse, which is just containers.
Yeah.
So I started off with 9 containers because we did maravus, and then worked out, okay, that's how much we need to store that number of books, etc.
Yes.
And then, so we just stacked containers sort of 3 wide and 3 deep. And then 40-foot containers. So suddenly we had all that storage. And then realized, and then just the following year, they then changed the curriculum. And then we thought, okay, what we now need to do is invest in editors. So the money that we got, because up until then, we'd never made any money. So we owed so much money. So in fact, we were wiped out by the money. I mean, we wiped out our debts with the money that we collected then.
Yes.
We wiped out the worst of our debt, not even all of it, but at least the worst of it. And then what happened is we realized we need to invest in this new curriculum, so it was just everything. You leap, things are happening.
Goodness.
So going back to your metaphor. And so we invested in this new curriculum. And that meant hiring a whole bunch of editors, designers, etc. So it grew very quickly.
Did you sleep?
Thereafter? No. For about maybe 2 years. What sleep? What are you talking about?
That's what I'm thinking to
myself.
myself.
Working 14-hour days. Editors we had mattresses here, etc.
For sure.
We took on 1 floor and then another floor. So now we have all 3 floors.
Hakuna kulala. Because even if you go to lie on that mattress,
yes,
that the mind is going and you're thinking +1 carry 2 whatever.
It was madness. It was madness. And it was
exciting but crazy.
Exciting. It was crazy. Now I look at it in retrospect and sort of I kind of miss that purpose, that drive, that kind of whatever.
Please don't say
but
those
I
words.
do not miss the work.
The universe has ears.
But there was a sense of real shared purpose, shared,
it's the whole thing of building from nothing.
Yes.
There's nothing quite like it for a creative.
Yes.
It's very different to maintain, and expand.
Yes.
Building from nothing. Yeah, it gets the adrenaline going.
It does.
Yeah.
And so I feel proud of that. And then we started the non-profit side of Story Moja.
Yeah.
Because we then, so before we really got into the curriculum stuff, we were very vested. Both myself, my partner, my partners were very vested in growing the reading culture.
Yeah.
Because we realized very quickly that one of the reasons, or the key reason why we can't sell what we really want to produce, the kind of books that children fall in love with and
Yeah.
want to buy, and don't rely necessarily on a teacher to tell them, you must read this to pass an exam,
Yes,
right?
yes.
We realized it's because, the oral storytelling culture
Yeah.
has kind of died off.
Right.
And then it hasn't been replaced with parents reading with their children.
Yeah.
So children don't see books as something exciting.
Yeah.
And then the curriculum books themselves tend to be too didactic, too moralizing, rather than just a child getting lost in this beautiful world.
Yeah.
And then incidentally picking up the moral lessons rather than it being rammed down their throat. So when I realized that's what's going on, we then started running a lot of reading promotion work.
Yeah.
So we started a non-profit called Start a Library. So starting libraries, as in not the physical building, but teaching teachers how to run libraries in their schools.
Okay.
And then working with donors to try and get them to supply the books.
Okay.
And then getting experts like Kenya National Library Services to run capacity training for the teachers.
Okay.
So
when they will the Kenya National Library also pay for that, or is it something you have to pay?
No, we paid. We were literally stretched beyond belief, the kind of things we're doing. And then we're also running a literature festival, the Story Moja Festival, that also
How old is that?
So we ran that for 10 years.
Wow.
So from 2008 to 2018.
Wow.
And in fact, the last one we did it in Ghana, but that's a story for another day. And it grew. I mean, it started out really slow, and then suddenly it took off, and we were getting like 5,000-6,000 students coming for the festival, etc. So
it's
it really
incredible.
grew. Yeah, it was amazing, but it was sucking everything. I mean, there was...
It's a whole enterprise on its own.
It's a whole enterprise,
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy now that I meet so many people who had come to the festival, many people who have their own festivals that they're now running. So I'm so excited about the festival space now in Kenya.
Right.
But for a while there, I was very depressed.
But pioneers, pioneers have to, be the ones to develop the antibodies to inoculate everybody else against all the hardships that come, So pioneers, pioneering anything is not, but I didn't even realize just what a spectrum of things you did.
We did a lot.
Yes.
And then on top of that, the biggest thing, which we are still doing, which was, through Start a Library, we run this national read aloud. And we'd been lobbying the government and everybody we could think of, come on, can Kenya please have a national reading day? And now we do. We have a literary day. So on July 10th, we're going to break the world record in reading aloud. We actually broke the record, I would say, in 2015, like 10 years ago.
Oh, you've already done that?
Because what happened is we had something like 1,000 schools reading at during morning assembly.
Right.
In those days, we used to do it on July 16th.
Oh, yes.
Which is the day of the African child.
Yes.
Is it June? Sorry, June 16th. June 16th, the day of the African child.
Yeah, June 16th.
And then, so we would pick a book.
Yeah.
And we would read. We would visit all the schools. The schools are the ones we supply in our networks.
Yes.
Right. In our regular business.
Yes.
And we'd invite them to read with us. The only thing is we couldn't get official recognition of it, and that's what we're fighting to get next year. We don't have it yet, but we're fighting to get that next year, to get the official recognition. So the world record is officially held by the USA. They broke the Guinness World Record in 2006, with 223,000 people reading from 900 locations. So reading aloud from the same text at the same time.
Yes.
So we want to have our attempt with 1 million children. But we had achieved 229,000 in 2015. It's just not officially recognized.
With 1 million children.
Yes.
You know what? I want to be in your corner, because there's nothing I find more exciting than people who have drunk the Kool-Aid of, I believe I can do this.
Yes.
That Kool-Aid is very nice.
No, we really want to do it.
I'm so excited.
We have to get a generation truly believing in the importance of reading.
It does so many different things for the mind. It's completely different from any other kind of cognitive development exercise.
Absolutely.
Reading is so important. It helps you with many different aspects. So now we're thinking of 1 million Kenyan children. But you did say that the festival had gone to Ghana, and I know that's a story for another day. So would you ever consider having a reading day that embraces more than just Kenyan children, and you do it?
Yeah.
Because this online now. I mean,
it's online. I mean, we invite anyone who's interested.
Okay.
Just drop everything and read there. Just that day. Drop everything and join us.
Between a certain
It's at 8:30 in the morning in Kenya time.
Okay.
So we have a countdown. It starts 8:30 in the morning.
Right.
The book we're reading from is called The Boy and the Lion, which I meant to actually come and show you.
Yeah.
I forgot.
No worries.
Anyway, so we're reading from a book called The Boy and the Lion, and it's an excerpt that's actually at the back of the book.
Right.
And so anybody can get the book and they can just read with us. And it's an extraordinary story because partly I'm in love with wildlife, but many Kenyans are.
Yes,
this
Kenyans,
is safari country.
Yeah, this is safari country.
And
it's
an
original safari.
The original safari country.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
South Africa.
That hurts. Yeah.
But the book itself is written by a guy called Mike Saitoti. We call his nickname Saito.
Yeah.
And Saito grew up in the Mara. So he's one of those families that actually grew up in the Mara.
Okay.
And when he was 5 years old, he got lost. He was following the herders, just being naughty, leaving home, and then he got lost.
Very authentic. 5
days lost in the Mara.
Wow.
And the encounters he had, I can't even tell you.
He wasn't consumed by a lion?
The Boy and the Lion is the title of the book, right? So it changed his life completely. And now he's the lead guide at the Fairmont in the Mara. And yes. And because they saved his life. After after his 5 days,
so everybody has to get this book. Is it available online?
Yes, it's available.
The Boy
online.
and the Lion.
The Boy and the Lion.
And it's wonderful to know that people can get it online.
Yes. Now you can get it online.
And now his day job is in the Mara.
It's in the Mara. I'm telling you, you have to read the book to believe just how extraordinary his life is and the impact that it had on him, on his community,
Story Moja, hiyo ni story.
Hiyo ni story
ingine. So moving from the academics, and we go to the wildlife stories. Why the wildlife stories?
Because
other than the fact that we know you like the wildlife, that's the disclaimer. It's already been accepted.
Yes. So what happened is, so we'd been sort of fueled by the educational textbooks, the textbooks and the CBC aligned storybooks.
Right.
And they comprise of 95% of our business.
Okay.
But I've always had this burning passion to create the books that children love, that children, can fall in love with, that are exciting as the way I used to find Enid Blyton. I know it's now politically incorrect, but I used to really
I know
be
you
addicted.
read them, right?
Well, I read everything.
I read
and Boons,
African.
I read
My
everything.
hand is up with all those ones.
Yes.
From Jane Austen to Mills and Boone, and that spectrum is quite hectic.
And I think what happens with these, when you fall in love with, they help you fall in love with reading. So it's no longer a chore. You're doing it for pleasure, to learn, to discover your world, and most importantly, to discover yourself, to really understand you and your place in the world, and I don't know, to sort of stop feeling lonely. I find books make me
it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world, and you pick up ideas of how other people live, or even if you like fantasy, it gives you that license to believe that people fly, that cars, that you go through walls, whatever.
Well, and also, I spend a lot of time with parents sort of trying to justify why reading really matters, which is a bit annoying, but yet I understand it because there are practical things. You know, somebody will tell you, look, I'm a doctor and I don't like reading and I've done really well for myself. And I'm saying that's besides the point. The point is that in order for you to do well in life, in fact, for you to be an extraordinary being, you've got to be creative. And reading is one of those things that really nurtures creativity. By that I mean, if you're a business person, let's say an entrepreneur, or you're the head of a newspaper organization or a manufacturer or whatever, you're Steve Jobs. What is it that you're doing? You know, what is it that makes you successful? Well, you're seeing opportunities where none exist, where everybody else is kind of lost. You're seeing solutions to problem. You're making them up as you go along. That's creativity. That's creativity. It's your synapses kind of, you know, firing in all kinds of directions and juxtaposing things that don't seem to belong together. Right. And yet then you create something, to create something new. And then you can't create anything new without creativity. So everybody who's at the top of their profession, it's really because they're creative. And all that books do, especially fiction books, is they really nurture that. They do. There's an interesting anecdote around reading science fiction, where it is said the Chinese wondered why the Americans, so going back 10, 15 years, why the Americans had they had this culture of creating new things, right? So those, you know, whether from AI to the internet to whatever, I mean, the Americans had this. And they said one of the biggest difference is just the consumption of science fiction, just consumption of, because when you think, what is science fiction or speculative fiction, where you're creating things that don't exist. Whether it's a table, whether it's whatever. If it doesn't exist, nobody's having it as a point of reference. And you know, to that point, Muthoni, I love comics. Yes. You know? Yes. Because comics really, really do that. Yes. And that's where Marvel movies have come from. DC comics, Marvel comics. We grew up with those. And when I took my kids and I told them I know these stories, they were like, How? I said, no, but I read them when I was a teenager in a comic book. Yes. Yeah. And isn't it amazing, the Marvel series, which is really old, I can't remember when it was written, even I think 1930s or 40s or something like that. And yet we're living we're, you know, it's created its own economy. I mean, right now, there's probably an economy bigger than Kenya. And honestly, the windows that are open if we embrace creativity, it's both incredible. For well-being, mental well-being, but also economic well-being. And I feel like it's the one thing that Africa could really drive forward is to truly embrace it. But you start by embracing stories. You start by embracing stories and embracing your heritage. Yes. And believing that it's powerful enough to transcend you. Yes. And so the wildlife stories are to help us to get familiar with our environment. To get us become familiar and also fall in love with it. Because it is extraordinary to me that if you ask people around the world in general, including in Africa, you who are your heroes? Now I'm talking about children. Right. Who are your heroes? Invariably, they tend towards Western heroes. Right. It's all sort of like, you know, who are the kids who achieve, and they tend to be Western, and I'm always disturbed by that. And I think it's because a lot of the books and images we're consuming in media, etc., are all Western. You know, those heroes aren't here. And so what we started out is we said, we're going to create an imprint. So it's called a Red Hot imprint. And it will be the premium Story Moja line that really starts to look at kids who are smart Africans with real agency. Right. Who make things happen. Right? Yeah. So the heroes in the Wildlife Detective series are 4 detectives who come from, you know, different layers of society. So you've got the spoilt judge's daughter, you have Bahati, who's living in the most straitened circumstances in Ukamba land, you've got somebody who's got albinism, a young man with albinism who's living in a slum in the streets of Nairobi, etc. So people from very different, and you've got a Samburu kid who's a little genius, you know, who just is, you know, a techie genius. And so trying to say that we're just like everybody else in the world. We 100%. Deserve our heroes. Right. We deserve to to portray for our children, portray people to them, to create heroes for them that make things happen, so that our children see they have agency too.
100%.
Let them be inspired. Let them care.
100%. Because, with Wasafiri Africa, the preview, I say that when post-independence, the continent was ignited with the possibilities.
Yes.
17 nations became independent in the 60s alone.
Yes.
With Ghana being first,
Yes.
right? So I always think that magic, my parents infused us, as a family. And I, talking earlier about how the books for you were like a conversation with your dad.
Yes.
The report was now the opportunity to sit at his, feet and whatever and talk about a book. You get enthused with the possibilities. And that's what we need to do now more than ever before.
Yes.
Is to enthuse our children and their children's children with the possibilities of who they really are.
And to make them fall in love with our stories. Our stories are amazing.
They're amazing.
I mean, what I think, one of the things I love about wildlife is because it's sort of like a respect for nature that is being lost or has been lost and is now slowly being reclaimed.
Yeah.
And it always seems to me like the drivers of that reclamation, the most celebrated ones, tend to be the Westerners.
Yeah.
But the reality is they're the ones that, cut that connection. So if you go back to most of our societies, you just go back 100 years, we lived in the midst of wildlife.
But this is the thing. That's a really important thing that you're saying there, Muthoni, because we look at the continent and we see the mammals, the big mammals that are still alive on the land, right?
Yes.
Forget the whales, and I'm saying on land. And Europe used to have them, hey?
Yes.
America used to have them, or rather North America used to have them, but they were disseminated.
Yeah.
So we have to call it what it is and say that the Africans have been really good at coexisting with the wildlife.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that is something that needs to be owned, because these elephants didn't just happen to be in Amboseli.
Let me tell you, these books are exactly about that.
Yeah.
We're like, you know what? Let's re-own.
Yes.
And be proud of the fact that as Africans, we have saved wildlife.
We have.
We have certainly the big mammals, as you say.
Yeah.
It's down to our forefathers who knew how to live with them, who did not perceive wildlife as a threat in the way that it is perceived now.
Or trophies.
Even by our own. It's certainly not trophies. And I'm not saying that, that we're pure and that people have not killed wildlife for food or anything. That's not the point. It's that we had systems that allowed us to sit side by side with wildlife. And it was part of the wholeness of our world.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, because I grew up in a forest with a lot of wildlife, and so, yes, of course, there were raids by elephants. There were raids by, baboons were the bane of our existence. So there was a lot of interaction with wildlife, but it wasn't the fear or the tourism, that where wildlife is just this thing that's valuable in many societies.
Yeah, but that's a consumerism sort of
where you're
approach.
looking at it rather than seeing it as something that we're sharing this world together.
Their existence becomes important for our existence.
Correct.
And to me, that's what coexistence is. And it's not really about the commercial aspect. It's about understanding how the ecosystem works.
Yes.
It's like when people talk about bees and say, guys, that little bee, those things disappear, we have no more food.
Correct.
So it's the same thing. And so this respect for wildlife and our heritage, I can see how the story flows naturally into the Shizu range.
Yes.
Which I'm so excited about, And I remember when you told me about this, I was like, once these books are out, I'm buying them for my nephews and my nieces.
Yes,
And,
yes.
So here we have two faces of Chifodera. We have Queen Mkabayi. So Chifodera, Western Kenya.
Western Kenya.
Mkabayi is South Africa. Princess Jinga is Angola.
What is Angola now?
Yes.
Actually, a little bit larger than Angola, but yeah.
And Kasigao is Taita. So that's Kenya. All right. So now, exciting. Fantasy. Remember what we were saying about the US and science fiction and triggering the imagination and getting them to create. So with the Shizu range, you have an very exciting theme.
Yes, we do. So, so the other side, the other passion, of course, African history.
Yes.
Because I am really sad about how poorly or how narrowly it's taught within our education system.
Yes.
And yet it is such extraordinary history.
Yes.
There's a sense, if you've grown up in Kenya, that you don't realize, and I think probably all of Africa, that you don't realize Africa had its own kingdoms, just like when you're reading Western history,
right?
And you have your King Arthur's and mythology that comes with that. You have your, that because obviously shaped around real people,
right?
Your King Henry and his 8 wives, and you had
decapitating
all of that.
them all.
Yes, so you have all of that, and there's a sense of, even like Queen Elizabeth when she was alive, that it's generational, it's kingdoms rise, kingdoms fall.
Right.
England was not what it is now; it was conquered by so and so, etc.
Lancelot.
And there isn't any sense that Africa has the same, and yet it is. That's exactly what it was.
Yes.
There's
Actually, we only know, people only really hear about Shaka Zulu.
Yes.
But even before Shaka Zulu.
And by the way, Mkabayi was Shaka Zulu's stepmother. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, so stepmother or aunt? Aunt.
I know
aunt,
it's a relative.
No, it's aunt.
It's aunt.
Yeah, grand aunt. Yeah. So anyway, so what we thought is, why not start looking for the most amazing sort of, not just kingdoms, legends, mythologies, migrations. So really interesting facts and instances, adventures in history, and then create a series around that, right?
Fantastic.
And then we cracked, the eureka moment came for us when we cracked how to do it. Because at first, we started off with, like, when we were developing the SUDEF, we started off with wildlife.
Yes.
So the wildlife detective series.
Yes.
We came up with a universe of detectives.
Yes.
And it was the same universe of detectives that were being written in every book, which meant if we were working with, which we are working with different authors, it's very difficult to teach them how to, or to convey to them the very consistent images and characteristics. And
that's how you build a brand anyway. There has to be a thread running through.
But imagine you're a creative, so you're writing your world, and then you've introduced this character, and I've told you she's arrogant. You think arrogance means this. The other person thinks arrogance is more polite, and the other person. So different writers will interpret, things differently. And they'll have different voices, different whatever. And it just wasn't working as a series.
Right.
Or at least it really slows down the development of the books, right? Which is why this is older, but we're much slower with it.
Yeah.
So when we came to Shizu, we said, no, we've got to overcome that problem.
Right.
And then the second problem we had is, if we had a universe, how do they know the languages when they go back in time?
Right.
So we decided, first of all, it's got to be time travel, because without time travel, then we're reporting history in its moment, and that could be very boring for kids to read because they don't really understand that language, that world, that they don't get it. So it's like when your grandmother tells you a story, or your great grandmother's telling you a story with her assumptions, her upbringing, she doesn't explain things in the way that you living in your modern world would. So we thought, you know what, we're going to have modern kids time travel back then.
Sweet.
So they're going back there with their phones, with whatever, they've just magically landed, and they're like, why isn't this working? Where's the tower? How come I'm not getting a signal?
Modern children with no Wi-Fi.
And then, they're used to, maybe they've got a house help at home, and now they're being told, no, you have to do all the work, right? Or if it's a boy, let's go hunting, and the girl is being told, no, in fact, you look ready for marriage, whatever is needed. And, so they're not used to that world at all. So in many ways, when they're then caught up, like in the wars and in the migrations, or depending on which story it is.
Right.
And so they're having this dual sort of struggle. They're trying to go back into their world, which they don't understand. How did that end up here, and etc. But they're also realizing things about their community and learning, because the twins, so we feature twins who time travel. It's always a boy-girl twins, which is magical element. And when they time travel back, so when they time travel back to the past, it's always to their own community. So they can speak their language perhaps not particularly well, which is endemic of many families that I know.
Yes.
Right? So they can maybe
that's
sometimes
also a
understand
legacy
it.
of, our history with colonialism, being, especially in Kenya. The schools we went to, you couldn't speak your local language at school.
You were punished.
Yes, you were punished.
You had to go around with a thing saying, I'm stupid.
Hello.
Yes.
So for example, with Calamity of Kasigao, so the twins on the cover, I love their hairstyles. So second, it reminds me of Wakanda, by the way. It's so on point.
So what we do with these twins, we so these are Taita twins.
All right.
But modern Taita twins from a middle class family.
Yes.
And when they time travel back, they can understand the language.
Right.
They can converse maybe at a very basic level. But obviously what will happen is after they've been there, and it's a magical time.
Right.
So it can stretch a year, it could even be 4 years or whatever, but they don't realize it because when they come back, they're in their present moment in time.
It's time travel. It's like this.
It's instant.
It's instant.
But the beauty of that is that the challenges that they face in their current world.
Yes.
So like with these ones, it's we were in the middle of so many, but
no, it's fine.
When you have twins, like for instance, who are grappling because maybe the father died. I know there's one where the father had died.
Yeah.
And it's in Chifodera. The father had died.
Yeah.
And so they're dealing with that sorrow. And the mother is then inherited in modern times, which of course they're very resentful
of course.
As modern twins were like, excuse me, our father was a lawyer, and what do you mean you're going to be inherited, and who is uncle,
how does he become our father and your husband,
etc. So something that I know real kids are going through. And even if you're not going through that particular thing, there might be things in tradition today that a lot of our African children don't understand. And why is that happening? So this gives them a chance to then go back and they begin to understand. It's not arbitrary. There were reasons that these things happened. So like a woman without any protection going back 100 years ago was really in a vulnerable place. She couldn't... it was far more difficult than today because you couldn't leave home and go and take a job or whatever it is. You needed the protection of the community, and the community could only accept you if you fitted within their lifestyles. And so what we do with the twins, it's not saying that necessarily we're saying children have to retain everything that was done traditionally, but they certainly become more aware of both the pluses and the cons.
And that's education, isn't it?
It is education.
That's education when you become more aware.
Yes.
There's so many subjects we studied which we didn't take to A levels.
Yes.
You dropped it after O levels. You're like, okay, good to know. I'm moving on with something else. And then in uni, you kind of narrow it down even further. So I think that's life. And what I see also at the back of every one of these books, is you've quoted Chinua Achebe.
Yes.
He's obviously for us is like one of our favorite African writers with Things Fall Apart and things like that. But I love this quote: "Until the lion tells the story, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter."
Yes. Because honestly, if we don't own our stories, then somebody else will create their own, make up their own. And they won't understand us and they won't know. Actually, not even they won't know. They can know. Those who are interested will know. But they won't care. It's like, I've been the last couple of years, because we now have these books, I've been going to the international book fairs to try and sell publication rights. And it's really striking to me that in most conversations that I've had with agents around the world, is they are surprised that we are offering rights to what we consider international books. They're African books. And to them, it's like, no, surely you're here to buy rights to Harry Potter, to Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and David Williams or whatever, Gangster Granny or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's the other way around. We're here to sell rights to African books that we think are as good as those.
More power to that.
Right?
More power to that.
But isn't it interesting that it's like the the pushback is, it's almost like, do you really think you as Africans can come to our part of the world and tell us stories in English that are more exciting than our own? You know, and I'm like, you just wait, you know?
Yeah, because the narrative that they have heard really has not portrayed, you know, creativity from the continent, period.
Yes.
And dare it be intellectual. And I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about Story Moja and where you're going. I think these are just at the cusp of their beginning. And I'm so happy to have this story shared with the world at the cusp of their beginning. But when you're not working, I'm sure you listen to music. So now I'm curious, since you have so aptly taken the charge of telling stories and protecting our wildlife and calling our history into life and making it vivid and exciting, what music from the continent do you enjoy listening to?
Quite a lot of different music, but I have to say, so I'll first start with a throwback. So I love Osibisa.
Oh, Sibisa, yes.
Which I often put on repeat.
Yes.
And
Sibisa, right?
Yes. And then going forward, the name is escaping me, but siku moja mbili sijalala sijakula nina stressi.
Is that Sauti song?
Ni watu feki. The song is called Watu Feki, and it is
How
amazing.
old is
Look
it?
for it. It's new. It's maybe a year old or something like that.
Okay.
And so it's like the whole gambit. There's a lot of young Kenyan singers. It used to be that Kenyan singers, when they were singing in Swahili, sometimes to me it used to sound odd, but now, honestly,
it's because our ear was not tuned to that,
but
you
now
know?
The music coming out is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I don't remember the names well enough, and I have to say, when you're listening to it on Spotify, because you're not looking at the album cover, you don't, at least I don't remember. It's the same thing with books. Like, I listen to them a lot more than I physically read them, and so the titles don't come to me very quickly. But having said that, there's some. And then my son is a musician, and I listen to a lot of his music, Papa. Yes, I listen to, especially like the Legacy album. Because,
I like the one you shared with me, not because of the podcast. You were just sharing his new release. And you know, it made me so excited because that song is about what we're talking about now. How important it is to own what we have. History. And I was like, Papa, I'm coming. I'm just going to hide behind your mom and say, please come on Wasafiri Africa.
I'll tell him. Definitely tell him. Yeah, so that's been, the music. I think African music is really going through an exciting period of time. I'm very excited about the new musicians that are coming out, because they're playing around with genres. They're really having fun. They're not representing as much. You know, I used to feel before like they're being forced to represent. But now they're like...
they're being creative. They're owning what it is that they like. And some of them just play... techno, and you know, they're winning Grammys for that. And then others, and they're African. And I was talking to someone on Wasafiri Africa, and they say now they feel it's so cool to be African that even if they go out there, people would say, did you have to duck some lions on the way to the airport? What about food? What food do you like from the continent?
At the moment, I'm really loving West African food.
Right.
Goosey soup.
I know. Do you know how many millions I agree with you there? I love plantain.
Yes. So there's a little West African restaurant in Village Market called the Golden Stool. That's pretty nice.
We shall discover.
That's nice.
Yeah. Thank you for that tip while I'm in Nairobi.
And then I love, Kenyan. Nyama choma must be there, so we like to go to Ankole.
Oh yes, Ankole is special.
That is a very nice place. So,
and on the continent, when you travel, because you've just come from wherever, and now you're going to Harare, what do you like of the food, like from outside?
It was interesting because my husband lived in Nigeria. I didn't at the time for 2 years, and
that's why you like West African food.
I didn't like it quite as much then, but I
okay.
think it was part of, sort of cultivating the taste.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've had more. I don't know whether it's more exposure or more. I don't know.
Just
maybe
a palate, maybe.
In fact, in London, we went to a Michelin star Nigerian restaurant just the other day. I can't remember what it's called. I was so shocked.
No, but now you
Michelin
can't tell us
star,
that and not give us the name.
I
We
can't,
must
but
Google
you
this
just
one.
Google Michelin star Nigerian restaurant in London.
We shall.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I'm sorry, it will break your bank, but it was amazing.
You should the disclaimer. You said Michelin. Yeah, if you have to check what's the price of this thing now, just stay outside.
I was like, it's okay. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
If a woman of the soil has traveled all the way to London and cooked local food in such a way that even those people are like, wow, this is amazing. I must honor her by going to her restaurant. Wow. So that was amazing.
Exciting.
So, over the years, that love has grown. And then I find as I grow older, I have more appreciation for very traditional food. So I eat a lot of githeri.
I love jahe,
Jahe. Oh, kwanza with plantain.
That's what I had for dinner last night.
With mojo, yes.
with terere. That's what I had last night. I wasn't talking to anyone. I was like, yes.
Yes. And then gizzards, they're cooked right. Oh, yes, matumbo, if it's cooked right.
Yeah, those are you guys.
Yes.
Me, I don't eat.
You don't. Pole sana.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what about traveling on the continent? Where would you say when you go, there's something like
I love,
even Kenya.
I think Ghana is amazing.
It is.
And I'm glad that we did, sort of, when we were there, when we ran a festival there, we actually went to see the slave... the fort.
Yeah.
And I would never go back. There's so much suffering. It's too heavy or whatever. But I love the energy of the people and I love the art. I think they have spectacular art.
I agree. And I love the fact that they've preserved it. Because it's, I was reading, it's not an African book, but it's Malcolm Gladwell's book, Revenge of the Tipping Point. And he talks about the important, how powerful overstories are, how they can hide things. And that's why it's so important for us to keep pushing out the real stories that they must be told. So I really appreciate the fact that Ghana has created that heritage in the city right there in Accra, that you can actually go and see and honor the
and
lives.
I'm told by friends that Senegal is, even the next stage up with,
I've never been.
And I haven't because I've been scared by the fact that I don't speak French. But now it's high on my bucket list, and I want in the next couple of years I must go to Senegal because everybody tells me it's just an amazing country.
And Senegalese food is yummy, eh?
Yes.
In Cape Town, there's a lot of West African little restaurants, like mom-pop places. So the food is really authentic.
Yes. And then in the south, I really enjoyed the desert tour, the Namibia. That I really. We ended up in a place. I remember at one point we had 3 punches. Don't even ask me how.
3 punches.
3 punches.
Okay, that's really pushing your luck.
It was literally, we now have no spare.
Yes.
And we're in the middle of nowhere. And we saw, it was like something out of a film, a little town called Solitary. And literally all it's got is a petrol station and a restaurant, and that's it. And we stop, and I'm thinking, hey, we are going to literally leave our wallets here, because this was in Kenya, and there's nothing else for miles. Literally you need a bank loan.
Let's make your burden a bit lighter.
Yes, you need a bank loan to pay for the tires to be fixed. And it cost nothing. I mean, they didn't charge. They were like, they don't take advantage.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Normal
so
rates,
your wallet wasn't gongwad so badly.
I was like, what are you talking about? How can it be just the same price as I'd pay if I had a puncher right here and I just went to the petrol station down the road? It was a very strange country in that we didn't really see Namibia, like the black Namibians.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether they were hiding that particular trip.
They were hiding from you.
Or it's just, because we went as tourists and went, a guided, sort of where we were guided. They just went, and they weren't there in the restaurants and the whatever. So I did miss that. And I can't say that I like their coast because the sea is too rough to swim in, which I didn't know.
Freezing cold.
I did not know any of that.
It's freezing cold.
But the desert was amazing. And I thought, Kenya, we have an amazing desert to the north, but we do nothing with.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that will change.
One more country.
Which one?
Uganda.
Oh, our neighbor next door.
Yes, it has the nicest people ever.
You know, I lived there for almost 3 years.
But don't you think so?
Yes.
They're extraordinary.
Yes. I have a
they're
bestie.
warm, they're real, they're funny.
Yes.
They're just enthusiastic.
Yes.
I love Ugandans.
Yeah. And you know, once they befriend you, they befriend you. Yeah. It's like, I'm your friend.
Yes. I love Uganda. So I always say,
that was worth
Uganda,
adding.
go there for the people. Just the most extraordinary, generous.
But it's also an amazing country because when I lived there, it's just so green. And, you know, you travel and you go those sides, you know, towards the Ruwenzori. Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's amazing.
Beautiful and generous.
I didn't make it to the gorillas. And that's also, for me, something that I would like to do.
Yeah, on your bucket list.
Yeah. Wow.
And then in Kenya, I mean, literally every direction you go, there is somewhere to go.
Absolutely.
So I can't even narrow it. You know, there's just so many amazing places.
When I tell people I'm from Kenya, they're like, "Oh, there's so much to do in Kenya. It's safari country." I mean, so people know. People know. Yeah.
Yes. But increasingly, I like doing the people-oriented tourism as well. So not just the wildlife, but also there's so many interesting things. There's a young man he's just getting in touch, urban, raised in Nairobi. And, you know, and he's gotten a piece of land from his father to build his Digira. So he has now organizes, invites people, you know, come and help me build so we can learn how to build, you know, the traditional way. So they're interested.
The round oval, he's being taught how to do that.
Yes,
done.
By the community.
Well done.
I think things like that. And then, you know, and then people having cooking classes, sewing classes, whatever, workshops, not really classes, but, you know, where you meet as a community and, you know, do interesting things. And walking in Karura, can there be anything more glorious than that?
Hey, I love Karura Forest. Yeah, it's so true. And it's right here in the city.
And it's 5
right
minutes
here.
away. It's beautiful.
Right here in the city. It's beautiful. It's such a treasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wangari Maathai. Yeah.
I know. I thank her every time I go. I try to go to Karura 3 times a week, you know, and honestly, every time
special.
I always just say, one moment, just, you know, thank you, Wangari.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and thank you to you, Muthoni.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I shall be back.
Is that a threat or a promise?
It's a good promise because you're doing wonderful things. Asante sana. Twendeni. Africa is ready.